Thanks for listening, and thank you for your support. Enjoy my interview with Sally Fallon Morell. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Jan.
Would you like to start out by telling us a little bit about who is Sally Fallon?
All right. Sally Fallon Morell, is an author. I wrote a book called Nourishing Traditions, co-authored with Mary Enig, Ph.D., which has been something of a phenomenon. It's sold lots and lots of books and made people really look at how we're eating in a different way and question the dictates coming from what I call the diet dictocrats, that we should all be on a low-fat, high-fiber, mostly plant-based diet. We talk about cholesterol and saturated fat and how critical these are to our health, and especially for growing children. From the beginning, it was the American Heart Association that was promoting the lipid hypothesis, the notion that animal fats and cholesterol cause heart disease. And over the years, the American Heart Association has been the biggest proponent of this theory.
So they seem to be at the forefront of promoting malnutrition and the very thing that causes people to have heart attacks rather than... So it's sort of like Orwellian newspeak.
It's really interesting that people go all day long trying to avoid animal fats and cholesterol, and then they'll pig out on half a gallon of ice cream at night, which is processed and loaded with sugar. Why not just eat butter, It just doesn't make sense.
Well, when I was a little kid, and in fact, my son, he loves to take a chunk of butter and eat it. But when I was a little kid, I used to like to do that. So you're saying that that's actually a good thing, to let your kids eat a chunk of butter.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They are telling you something. And our kids are so fat-starved today. And, of course, the better the quality of the butter, the better for your child. It should be from grass-fed animals and preferably raw butter.
Oh, definitely, and raw cheese as well when I can find it. What did people die from in the 19th century?
People died mostly from infectious disease in the 19th century. You have to remember this was a century of tremendous urban crowding. The horse was the main means of transportation. We did not have good sewage systems. We did not have clean water. Just to give you an example, it wasn't until 1895 that the city of Chicago built a system where they could pull fresh water out from the middle of the lake instead of what they were doing before was pulling it out of the same section of the shoreline where they were dumping the sewage.
The Anti-Coronary Club, they did a study. What did they show?
All right. Well, the Anti-Coronary Club was sponsored by the New York Department of Nutrition. And they put a group of businessmen ages 40 to 59 on what they call the prudent diet, in which the men ate margarine instead of butter, fish and chicken instead of beef, and cold cereal instead of eggs for breakfast. And they were compared with a group of matched controls, same age group, that could eat all the meat they want, have eggs for breakfast every day, and use butter and so forth. And they followed these men for a number of years, and then they published their findings. And the final report is very interesting exercise in hiding things, obfuscation, I would say, because the abstract, published in very large letters, declares that this study was a success because those on the prudent diet had average cholesterol level of 220 compared to those on the meat and eggs diet with a cholesterol level of 250. However, if you read the entire report, you come to a paragraph at the end written in very tiny letters where you learn that those on the prudent diet with lower levels of cholesterol, there were 8 deaths from heart attack in that group, whereas those on the meat and eggs and butter group with the higher levels of cholesterol, there were no deaths from heart attack in the group. So it's like the operation was a success, but the patient died. And we now know that there are components of the fat that are important for you to digest the meat and to process the protein in the meat.
Wow, that's very interesting. And I remember reading stories in various books that, let's say, if an American native needed to take a long hike to go to a different tribe or to go to a trade route or something, that they would take a big chunk of fat with them to eat.
Yeah, right. And they made pemmican, which was about 80% fat.
What was it called?
Pemmican. Pemmican was it was the lean meat which was dried and pounded to make a powder, and it was mixed with melted fat, and then all this was put inside a leather bag and allowed to congeal, and they could carry that. A man could carry food for 40 days in one bag.
Do you mind me asking you, what is the single most important concept you would like listeners to take away from this interview?
The single most important concept is that the most important thing they can do to improve their diet is to replace all industrial oils with traditional animal fats, or if you need a liquid oil, to use olive oil. My book is Nourishing Traditions, and my video is called The Oiling of America, and they are available on Amazon and at my website, newtrendspublishing.com.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you for having me.